Let's
He
go.
came back home with a woman on one side and a drink on the other. My mother was sitting on the couch hugging me tightly. I was very sick. When she saw my father like that, she wasn't shocked at all and didn't start a fight. Instead, she begged him to at least take me to the hospital. But he kicked her with his leg and went to the bedroom with that woman. Her own bedroom, her own bed. She didn't
Are
care
you
though.
sure
Her heart
you're
was
meant to
already
do that
broken a
when
million
you're
times. All
married?
she cared about was taking me to the hospital as fast as possible.
That face
She was
though.
crying and shivering, yet she gathered her courage, took money out of my father's wallet, and ran to save me. The next day, she was punished for what she did. My father got angry because she took his own money. He couldn't care less about what happened to us. He only cares about himself. That evil monster gave my mother the worst life she could imagine. She married him at a young age, wasn't
Just
educated,
divorce
and her
him.
family gave up on her. My grandmother refused to help her, so my mother ran
Divorce
away and
him.
married my father. Therefore, my mother had no place to go. She chose to suffer with my father in silence and be the obedient wife for him. Plus, if she'd dare and ask for a divorce, he'd make her sign a contract giving me up and all of her rights, so she'll end up with nothing. Until I turned 18, we lived in hell. Though my dad had money, he didn't give us any. He used to spend it on himself, other women, and drinks. I couldn't go to any
He's not
birthday
even
parties or
loyal.
hang out with my friends, so they started to neglect me. They thought I was avoiding them on purpose, but the truth is, my father wouldn't let me. He kept us home all the time. My mother wasn't allowed to leave, and I was only allowed to go to school.
That is
One day, my
horrible
dad came back
parenting.
home and he looked angry. He started yelling
Hashtag
and
very
breaking
angry.
things. My mother and I were terrified. We sat in the corner waiting for him to calm down. But instead, he started throwing glass on the floor and calling us bad names. I was sobbing my eyes out and called my grandmother, his mother, asking her to come and help us. Yet she said, "Don't worry, he won't harm you. He's your father after all. It's probably because of your mother. I think she pissed him off." That's when I couldn't take it anymore. I
Wow.
went totally ballistic. I was afraid he would start throwing stuff at her, so I got
What
up and
the
fought
hell?
against him. I tried to take my mother out of his arms and protect her. I managed to push him away and he fell on the ground. I was shaking.
You
I
go,
started
girl.
crying and begging my mother to leave him. He got up and looked at me. He said sarcastically, "Yeah, go ahead. You can leave. You'll be gone for maximum 2 or 3 days, and return begging me for shelter." I replied, "You'll see. I'll be successful, and I promise I'll make up for every miserable day we spent with you. One day, you'll be an old sick man living alone, wishing we had never left, and I'll
Yep.
come and show you what you have lost." That's when he laughed and told me that I am a loser, and we won't survive without him. Then he pulled out a $10 bill, threw
Wow.
it at my face, and said, "For the house you want to buy, you know." That day when he fell asleep, my mother and I packed some stuff and ran from the house. My mother and I hesitated at first, yet we couldn't stand living with him anymore. I promised my mother to give her a better life. Fortunately, I saved some money, so we went to a nearby motel in our town and spent the night there. The next day,
Hotel's
I
called
spoke to the
some money.
manager and asked if he had any job offers. To my luck, he had something. We joined the cleaning staff, and he was nice enough to offer us a worker discount to rent a room. Months passed, and during that time, I was searching for another job and trying to save money. Well, you might think that things went great for us and that my manager was a great person. Well, no. Later, I figured out that he wasn't kind at all. He started treating us badly and wanted us to do extra work for free. My mother started to get very sick from this extra work, and my manager was being meaner
That's
than
gruesome.
ever. Once I tried to ask for a raise and threatened to report him. He fired us, claiming that I wanted to get closer to him because I'm a gold digger. Since we did not earn enough money to rent an apartment, I had to think of something else. I searched on the internet and found a
Nope.
women's shelter close by. For me, it's not the best idea, but we needed a place to go. As for my mother, she couldn't find any job. No one wanted to hire her. It wasn't the greatest place, but we managed to survive while searching for something else. After all, it was better than returning home to my father. He would have treated us even worse. After a long search, I finally managed to find a job that offers a high salary and a good company that
What
needed
the?
no experience and no degree. I was thrilled and super excited when they
That
invited me to
face
an
again.
interview, and I jumped out of joy when I got accepted. I I had to leave my mother alone most of the time because I had to spend 6 hours on the road every day. It takes 3 hours to get to the company, and I had to change 3 buses. Though it was exhausting, I worked hard and never missed a day. I even asked for extra hours until I finally managed to rent a small apartment next to my work. When I had everything organized, my mother immediately followed me. When she entered the apartment, she started to cry. Though it was small and old, I saw happiness in her eyes, and she felt for the first time in her life as if she had her own kingdom. That brought joy to my heart. I will never forget how excited she was. 4 years passed, I had a
What
stable
is that
income, and we
dance?
were living peacefully. I got a promotion at work, yet I felt that I could do something bigger and better. I had an idea about starting my own business. Even though in my case it was too risky, I gathered my courage and invested my savings in it. My mom was too worried, but she felt like she didn't have the right to stop me since this is my own money, and I already did so much for her. Deep down, I knew I might lose it all, yet I had faith in myself. So I quit my job and started my own business. At first, it went great. I started investing more and more money, and I even got a bank loan. But suddenly, I started to have problems, one after another. I lost a huge amount of money. I tried harder. I tried everything I could to fix and save it, but I just couldn't. I lost hope and gave up on everything. We even had to sell our furniture and hand in the apartment. We ended up alone in the streets one more time. My mother was heartbroken. Though she tried to hide her feelings and cheer me up, I was devastated and kept imagining my dad laughing at me sarcastically. And I remembered his words, "You are a loser." My mom tried to comfort me. I thought about getting back to the shelter, but I knew my mom didn't like it, and she had a hard time there. She acted excited to get back and that it was okay, but she's a terrible liar. So I decided to go to my grandmother's
Mom's a
house, her
terrible
mother.
liar.
At first, she refused to open the door, even though she knew her daughter and granddaughter might end up sleeping in the streets. What a heartless woman! I kept on begging her. I had to give up my ego and put my pride aside. I need to protect my mother. After crying and begging for hours, she finally agreed, and we stayed at her house for a while. However, she took advantage of my mother and treated her as her servant. My mother had no choice but to accept her new destiny. Though many might
That's
hate me for
mean.
saying this, I hated my grandmother. She was worse than my father. I mean, I know my mother made a mistake, but she was so young. How could a person be so cruel, especially a close one like family? And to make things worse, when my uncle knew that my mother and I were staying at my grandma's house, he went furious. He was afraid that my grandmother would forgive my mother and count her in her will, because when my mother left, he had everything for himself. Money had blinded him. He tried to kick us out of the house many times. But one day I got sick of him and started yelling, "Don't worry, we don't want anything. Even if my grandmother offers us money, I won't take it. So can you please let us stay in here until we find another place to go to? I promise we won't
Yeah.
bother you, and I'll try to get out as fast as possible. Meanwhile, we just need a roof." Tears were streaming down my eyes, and I felt powerless. I kept remembering my father's words, "You are a loser. You won't make it on your own," and wondered why evil people only get more powerful and people who are helpless get more miserable. I wanted to give up on everything, and I was thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe we shouldn't have left our house in the first place. When suddenly my mom came into the room and hugged me. She said, "You are my hero, the strongest person I've ever met. You did everything you could, and even more to save me. I love you." And she kissed me on the forehead. Months passed and I worked every single day. I didn't give up on my business, and I tried to make it successful again. Plus, I found a new job, and there I met Jacob. To my surprise, we shared the same interests, and I told him about my business. He was well educated and knew a lot. Jacob offered to help and asked me to hire him. He was my first employee and honestly had a huge impact. He helped me a lot, and we did it together.
Wow.
This time I made sure I could handle things on my own, and both of us quit our jobs and worked day and night. Having him by my side felt like a godsend. We managed to make my business a successful one. We also managed to have offers from big companies to be our sponsors. Years passed and I
Wow.
became rich. I bought my mother a penthouse with a sea view. She liked to drink her coffee while watching the sunset. My name was all over the internet, and I was famous. Jacob and I decided to get married, and after keeping my promise, I guess I should dedicate time for myself. My uncle tried to contact me after I became rich to help his daughter and find her a job, but I refused. I kicked him out of my company. However, my mother wanted to keep contact with her family, especially her mother. I don't understand why, but she had her own beliefs, and I respect that. Days before my wedding, I went to my father's house. He didn't change at all. When I saw him in front of me, my heart started beating fast. Every ounce of my body shivered, and I had a terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach the entire time. I guess after all these years, I'm still afraid of him, but I had to gather up my strength. I looked into his eyes and said, "Hi, Dad. How have you been?" He was shocked to see me. I could tell from the look he had on his face, yet his ego wouldn't let him admit it. And he replied, "Better than ever. I can't describe my happiness and how my life got better without you and your mother in it." My heart stopped. I wanted to crush his face to the ground. After all he did, he was still stubborn and wouldn't admit his mistakes. However, I smiled and said, "Well, I think you watched the news and you know that we're doing great as well. Greater than ever, without you." I threw the wedding invitation on the table in front of him and said, "Well, I'm getting married in a couple of days." Then I pulled out my brand new car keys from my designer handbag, put on my sunglasses, and said, "You're invited, not as my father because I don't have one. But I promised you something, and I kept my promise. You are invited to see our life without you. Oh, and don't forget to buy new clothes. It's a fancy wedding." I also pulled out some $100 bills out of my bag, threw them on the table, and said, "For the clothes, you know." Then I left. I felt victorious. Though he didn't confess it, I knew that he was torn inside, and that's what I wanted. You might think I'm evil, and what I've done might be wrong. Well, all I can say is that after all, I'm his daughter, and we share the same blood.
Okay, that was actually pretty good. Now, I will be back in a second with the next video. Okay, this is the next one. It's I found a secret room at school that changed my life.
This story is something that I like to share with my friends when they're feeling down about their love life. A couple of years ago, our school was getting renovated to add a new auditorium in.
Nice.
Half the school was closed off, but there was one bathroom that I found located down a dark hallway that was the prime place to do a number 2. You know what I mean. It was always quiet in there, and no one ever came down that way because it was so dark. This one morning, I'd been running late for school, so I didn't get a chance to go to the bathroom at home like I usually do. I got to my first hour class and felt the rumble in my stomach. I had to go. So I asked for the hall pass and traveled down that dark, lonely hallway to get to my throne. But when I got there, I discovered that they had blocked the girls' bathroom. There was a yellow caution tape across the door. It seemed that they were now working on it, and it was under construction. I was nowhere near another girl's bathroom, and I really had to go. So my only option at this point was to head to the boys' room. I almost didn't get my pants down in time when I finally got to the stall and started my business. Thankfully, I finished quickly. You know, it goes much faster when you don't have your phone to entertain you. I was just getting my pants zipped back up when I heard 2 boys walking in the bathroom. Crap, I thought to myself. I didn't want to get caught in the bathroom, and I didn't want to leave because I didn't want them to know it was me who had just dropped a bomb in here. All I could do was wait, and hopefully they do their business and be on their way. Of course, I wasn't so lucky. I've never known boys to be gossipy, but apparently that's what these kids wanted to do today. After they both got done washing their hands, they stood at the sinks. I could see them through the crack in the door, but luckily they couldn't see me. My feet were up on the toilet, and I was trying very, very hard not to move or shake. It got even more difficult to do when I heard the first boy say, "So, do you really think Lily's hot?" My eyes grew wide and my jaw dropped. That was my name. Who the heck would think that I'm hot? I tried to get closer to the crack in the door without making any noise. "Oh, dude, yeah, definitely," said the other boy. As I peeked through the crack in the door, I could just make out the boy's light brown hair and his letterman's jacket. Other than that, I didn't have a clue who he was. Are you going to ask her out? The first boy asked. No way. She doesn't seem to be into me. She's always looking away when I look at her, or she won't talk if I say hi. She's probably just shy. Ask her out. Nah, I can't. I'm really sure she doesn't think I'm hot. Was this person talking to Tyler? The hottest?
Boys, just because girls avoid you doesn't mean they don't like you. Okay, let's continue.
Guy in the school, I thought to myself, watching the boys as they finally left the bathroom. Tyler was a football player, so he definitely had a Letterman's jacket, and he had soft brown curls that fell a little over his eyes. I hope it was Tyler. He does look at me sometimes, but I always get embarrassed because I feel like his piercing blue eyes are stabbing my soul. Am I being too dramatic? Probably. Anyway, I finished washing my own hands, and then I waited a couple more minutes to leave the bathroom. When I returned to my class, my teacher gave me a dirty look. I went up to her and told her that my period started, and she gave me a nod of understanding. I apologized and headed to my seat. We were supposed to be working on algebra, but I couldn't get my mind off of Tyler. What if he really had said he liked me? I'm not the most popular girl in school. I'm not super hot like the spunky cheerleaders. I'm more of an athletic type. I always figured Tyler went for girls who were super small, had bleached blonde hair. Maybe I underestimated him. When class was over, I still wasn't 100% sure it was Tyler who had been talking about me in the bathroom. So I didn't want to go up to him and just exclaim, "Kiss me," in front of everyone. Instead, I made my way over to where he was and kind of stood by to see if he would peek at me. My friend Daria came over. We talked, and I told her I had a secret. I explained what happened, and she couldn't believe what I said. You're telling me that you were taking a poop and found out someone majorly hot has a crush on you? I was actually done pooping, but yes, I was stuck in the bathroom, and now I may have a super hot boyfriend. I don't believe this, she said. She shook her head. Wow, thanks for the vote of confidence, bestie, I thought to myself. Not that I don't think Tyler would like you, it's just that he's dating Simone. She pointed over her shoulder at Tyler, who had his arm around, you guessed it, Simone, a blonde cheerleader. Sigh. I watched as the two kissed and blushed. Dang it. Either I was wrong, and that's not the Tyler that has a crush on me, or he's totally into me while having a girlfriend. I don't know which was worse. I tried to get all of this off my mind, but then lunch happened. I usually brought my own lunch, but today I was running late, remember, and I had to get a hot lunch. Standing in the lunch line, I was studying my phone. I wasn't looking at anything cool. Everyone I would have talked to was in school too. When I heard the voices from earlier, it was the boys from the bathroom. They were right behind me in line. I was about to turn around and see who Destiny had waiting for me. Now that I had a better vantage point, I could hear that it wasn't Tyler. I turned around to see Matt standing right behind me next to Drake. Matt is someone who was always...
I'll be back. I just need to get something. Okay, I'm back. I needed to do something for my mom.
on the outside of my friend group, but I never paid much attention to him because he was pretty shy and kept to himself. He was a wrestler, and he had some gorgeous blue eyes. As I looked closer at him in the lunch line, I realized that he looked a lot like Shawn Mendes. There's no way I wanted them to know what I was doing in there in the first place. Gross. So I put on my best flirty smile and gave Matt the eye. I turned back around and finished lunch as usual. I've known him for many years, but he's not someone I would have considered going out with. Even though he is cute, he's shorter than a lot of the guys I'm attracted to, and that's okay. Anyway, later on that day, when I was walking to my last class, Matt and Drake walked by in the hallway, and Drake nudged Matt. Hey, Lily, I heard from behind me. I turned around, and he was standing there. Drake was a few feet away, pretending that he was trying to get into his locker, even though I knew his locker was way on the other side of the school. Hey, what's up, Matt? I asked, playing it cool. He coughed and came closer. So, I was wondering if you were doing anything this weekend? It was definitely Matt that was in the bathroom, I thought to myself. No, not at all. Why? What do you have up your sleeve? He got a huge smile on his face and asked me if he could take me to the movies. Of course, I said yes. The rest of the week went by super slow. All I wanted was to get to Saturday so I could see Matt. Throughout the school week, we kept flirting with each other in the hallways and talking in class, but we didn't have time to see each other outside of school. Finally, it was Saturday. The big day. I spent all day getting ready, putting on face masks,
Good luck,
shaving my
girl.
legs, putting lotions and creams all over my body. Then I slipped into one of my favorite floral dresses and a denim jacket. My phone jingled and I beamed when I read that Matt was outside my house. When I got in the car, his face was all smiles too. "Hey, you look beautiful," he said. I couldn't help but blush. "Thank you. You look handsome and you smell really good." Is that weird? So I was thinking, there's supposed to be a meteor shower tonight. How would you feel about going to the park instead of the movies? Are you going to try and murder me? Or are you just cheap? I giggled. Matt smiled and nudged my shoulder. "For real, I think this would be really cool." "Okay, let's do it." We pulled up to the park and Matt got out of his car. He went to the back where he pulled a blanket, a basket, and some pillows out of his trunk. We made our way over to a patch of grass and he spread the blanket out. He pulled out a bottle of sparkling juice and 2 glasses from the basket. The
He
cork
really
was
cares
popped
for
and we
her.
drank the bubbly along with some strawberries that he'd carefully cut up and put in a Tupperware container. It was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. For the next 2 hours, he mesmerized me with all of his wisdom about the sky and what's beyond our view. I don't know what came over me, but as he was telling me about the Big Dipper, I leaned over and kissed him. It didn't take him long to grab the back of my head and lean into the kiss, and we laid back against the pillows again. As the meteor shower flew overhead, we stared into each other's eyes. I'll never forget the way he made me feel that night, and I'm honestly so happy that I got trapped in the boys' bathroom. This was the most romantic first date I've ever been on. Things didn't end all that great for Matt and I, though. On our second date, I mentioned how I was in the bathroom, and I heard him talking to Drake about me. He gave me the weirdest look and finally
Sorry, my dog
said,
came in.
"Well, Lily, I didn't tell Drake that I liked you. I didn't tell anyone that I liked you." I was confused. "But I saw you in the bathroom the other day with Drake, and he asked you if you thought I was hot." The more I talked, the weirder it sounded. "No, Lily, that wasn't me. Did you think I was the person in the bathroom and that's the only reason you went out with me?" The hurt on his face was serious, and I felt my heart hit my feet. Ugh, I think I did just go out with him because I thought he liked me. The date ended soon after that. He dropped me off at home, and I tried to text him several times. I think he finally blocked me. All of this was really upsetting, but I tried not to get too down about it because next weekend was prom. I was really excited to go, even though I wasn't going to have a date now. When prom day finally arrived, I dressed in a long, sparkly dress and the highest heels I could stand to walk in. My friends and I pulled up to the hotel where the prom was being held, and it was like a massive party erupted around the grounds. All of the seniors and juniors were dancing, relaxing, and drinking punch. I caught the eye of Tyler once or twice, who kept smiling shyly at me. Weird, I thought. He's not dancing with his girlfriend. Maybe they broke up? By the end of the night, everyone was having a great time, and the announcer came to the stage to tell everyone who was going to be the next prom king and prom queen. I knew that Tyler and his girlfriend were a shoo-in, so I waited in the back with my friends for the announcement. Then, just like in those cheesy teen movies, the announcer, who was our assistant principal, called Tyler to the stage to be crowned as the king. Soon after, my name was shouted as well. "Lily, come on up! You have been voted prom queen!" I could not believe my ears. I rushed up to the stage and the tiara was placed on my head. My smile was probably as bright as the moon. I was elated. Tyler came over and gave me a hug, and I swear I heard him whisper, "I really like you." I couldn't move or speak. Had it been Tyler in the bathroom the whole time? We walked off the stage and we were congratulated by our friends. And then Tyler pulled me over to the corner and looked me in the eye. "Lily, I can't hold it in any longer. I really like you. Will you dance with me?" We danced the rest of the night, and we kissed when he took me home. It's been a couple of years since this happened, and Tyler and I are still together. What do you
Okay, that was so adorable. And I wish I could do another one, but I've got to make some bracelets. Goodbye and peace out.